Akira.
Have you any hobbies?
My hobbies are fast cars and fast women.
Hobbies are healthy. They teach you things.
Are you ready? Are you ready?
Here we are. It is that time, Monday evening. You know where it is and you know where it's at. We are on Around the UFL here for Pro Football Newsroom. Zach coming back in the chair after a week away. Fun little fact that now means, if I'm calculating right, James here is the only one that's been able to hit every show. So Mr. Mr. Reliable on here has made it his duty, and I applaud you for that. Anyway, though, kicking things off, welcome to another episode of Around the UFL. I am Zach Kyleman hosting, and Michael Bias bringing in what I love to say is my favorite jam for any of the shows we do, because these guys know from behind the scenes, you can see my camera when we come on. I love the intro to this damn show every week, and it's another fun week. And it's been kind of a hectic week where several small little stories have made it quite a busy week overall, to where it feels like things have been far off into the past over the last 7 days. And we'll get into it as we start things off. But of course, before I get into it, and I got to get intro in everyone that's here, and let's do this thing. So of course, it's us three. I've already said my own things. I got the guy that I'm trying to reverse psychology on before the season starts. This is the ref to my right, sir. And I know that you're the rule maker. I am the rule breaker. I will have my way. You are not going to police me coming into the season. I will break these rules.
I can't help how it actually goes down. All I know is I call it like I see it. And last year we saw what happens. Ref's law came into effect. Will ref's law play the same this year? We'll have to see. All I know is if it's the same as last year, I can only speak on what my Roughnecks are going to do. 12-0, rough them up, all in, getting signed up, which, if ref's law stands true, I mean, that is not a good sign for the Michigan Panthers. Only time will tell. Maybe it's another team that'll get. Maybe it'll be the Arlington Smelligades. I'll have to think of another name to make fun of the Brahmas that's meaner than calling them the Brahmas. We'll get there. Maybe it'll be one of those teams that gets it. But all I could speak on is the Houston Roughnecks, 12-0, all in, rough them up. As far as how I'm doing today, I'm doing pretty good that I'm now on this show. I hate my job. I hope people that I work with watch this show. I hate it. I hate you all.
I'm real with
but here's what I'm happy about. 2 weeks from now, Spring Stock 3, a trilogy in the making. It's going to be fun. It's not only a trilogy in the making, it's a 2-day event. Come and join us March 30th and March 31st. Naturally, we're going to be out there for that opening UFL game against the Arlington Smelligades and the Birmingham Stallions. So come and join us bright and early. I think 9 a.m. Eastern is when we're planning on kicking things off. And tentatively, we're probably going to be in Lot L. So come and join us. We're going to be there hot to trot, good times, good guests, and good giveaways. And then we're all going to enjoy the game. But then one day later, we're throwing a good old-fashioned tailgate down in Houston, Texas. So grab your swangers, throw them on your car, and come and join us because we're going to be there. And I know our good friends at Vintage Varsity who are sponsoring the event, they're joining us from the tailgate, from the Yacht Club tailgate. So they're all going to be out there. So they're not going to want to hear this next part. So just do one of these.
Oh, here we go.
It's the beginning. It's the beginning. We're going to be that one. You're going to be the first one in the 1-0 on our way to 12-0. You could be the one in the 12. There you go. At least, you'll have a memorable opening season for us. So I'm looking forward to that. And hey, if somehow, some way, something happens and the Showboats win, I'll be there and you can all laugh at me. So,
well, I'm going to hold and put that on pause I know that Bill's going to have his own say on that, as he is a very vocal individual himself and is very passionate about his own items. For Springstock, by the way, we are also going to have, it's almost like a dual broadcast this year because, James, as you may know, you're going to be doing part of the show on kind of a remote schedule here as we're setting this thing up. Meanwhile, speaking of remotes, as I tie this in, the press tours, my man, you're hitting them up. It is that time of year for you and a few of us hitting these different events and conferences that are going on for league teams, league personnel, team personnel. How you holding up? What are you getting so far out of that? And good to have you on the show as always. Like I said, Mr. Reliable, as I'm going to be giving you a name from now on.
Yeah, always happy to be on this show. A lot going on around the UFL, which is why I think the show has the name that it does. And it's been an interesting week. A lot going on in training camp. Not a lot of movement when it comes to like rosters and players. We've seen a few signings, seen a couple releases, but a lot's been going on because these coaches are trying to narrow down their final 50. And really just the name of the game right now is there's a lot of talent on each roster, and it is going to be like if you thought it was hard to cut down from 75 to 58, it's going to be even harder to now cut down from 58 to 50, which sounds crazy, but like I mean, this is the situation that these coaches are facing, and every single one that I've talked to, Mike Nolan, Anthony Beck, etc. All these guys have talked about how we went from 16 teams down to 8, and these talent levels are just ridiculous because we have all these phenomenal players from the USFL and XFL, and these teams went out and signed a bunch of free agents who have been in the NFL. So it's talent all over the place.
Yeah, crazy amounts of guys that are going to be razor thin making the cut. We'll discuss a little bit more and kind of previewing that coming up because FYI for those that you'll hear this later in the show, but we'll reiterate final second cuts next Saturday. We are really getting to that point where it's on the horizon. We're at the 12-day mark right now. As of
Isn't
today.
it crazy? Isn't it crazy? Like, again, we cover this year round. And I think I may have brought it up on this show, or maybe it was the UFL podcast. Another reason why you guys should be subscribed, click the bell, it builds morale. But I talked about this is, once the season ended, we had the end of the XFL season, then shortly after the end of the USFL season, it felt like an eternity to like September, which is when the news dropped that they might be merging. And then that felt like an additional eternity from September until the end of the year, beginning of the year. And now it's just been like, boom, we're here. We're here. Hey, we're about to kick off. We're about to go to Spring Stock 3. We're about to go watch the USFL champions take on the XFL champions in the opening game. And it's crazy. And I look like garbage. I'm going to have to clean up before Spring Stock. My goodness.
You swerved to a personal attack on yourself. My God. We'll go move on from that. I don't even know how to segue out of that one. That's just hitting a brick wall. What I will say is not going to be hitting any stoppage of the excitement for this league, which again, and you guys put in your own 2 cents when we get into this point. Feels like the vibes around the UFL publicly, and I'm talking outside of us, the crazies, us, the very high attentive fans, the casuals. It feels like a lot more casual influence, and I would say eyeballs are on this now. And I think one thing that has helped was the news this week, which has had a lot of rumors that were heavily, I think, influenced, but it got official, and so we can kind of hit on this a little more. That St. Louis. It is now confirmed as ever will be that the UFL Championship is being hosted in St. Louis, Missouri this year at the Dome of America Center. It's going to be a good time. James,
we
love to
really
get your thoughts and start the details.
Lucky, because the last time we talked on this topic, those two went at it, and we might just have to. Too bad we can't just pull up that.
It's kind of because we can't recycle that, but I think this is a good debate topic still because some people did have their say. Initial thoughts though, James, because this has been out there a minute in terms of rumors all over.
Who put that out originally? By the way,
well, hey, it's been out there, but yeah, St. Louis, I feel like they deserve the championship this year. I love Canton. Don't get me wrong, and this is coming from someone that's been in Canton for the last 2 championships. We love that stadium. We love what they've done there, but if they don't have a team. And with the way St. Louis has responded so passionately with spring football, with the XFL, I feel like they've earned it. Even if the team isn't there, there's going to be a good turnout. And I love the fact, some people are arguing that, if the Battlehawks aren't in it, nobody's going to show up. It's going to be a bad... Dude, San Antonio had 22,000 people at the Alamo Dome for the XFL Championship when the Brahmas went 3-7 and had a pretty bad season. So obviously Texas loves their football, but so does St. Louis. They're going to embrace the league, whether the Battlehawks are in it or not. If the Battlehawks aren't in it, we'll have a good crowd. If St. Louis makes it there, man, that thing's going to sell out. It's going to actually be insane.
It'll be insane.
I feel like Canton has an opportunity to come back into the mix. If there's some eventual expansion down the road, I could see the league doing like what the NFL does, where they rotate stadiums, they rotate venues for like the NFL does with Super Bowl. Maybe Canton gets back in that way. But for now, I think it makes much more sense to just stick with the stadium that you're actually playing in throughout the year.
Not to deviate from the championship, because I do want to come back to that, but I can't recall who put it out, but there was somebody, I want to say over the weekend, maybe it was late last week, that had some report about the league expanding over the next 2 years, and they were talking about Cleveland, and I've not heard that quick or large of an expansion, but I almost it's worth taking a moment to talk about it, just because we talked about expansion. Like, what do we even think is feasible, right? Like, one, they got to get past this season, which I think they'll do. I mean, I don't think there's anything stopping them from getting to the end of the season like we saw with the AEF, or it ain't going to be anywhere like the MLFB. So I'm not worried there, but you do have to get to a season 2. You have to announce a season 2. I don't know, James, what are your thoughts on this? Or is there anything you're hearing there?
Quite a few thoughts, actually.
Yeah.
So for one, I think expansion obviously is in the league's future. We need to get through season 1 before I understand, the excitement of talking about expansion, but for me, it's like, all right, we've seen these leagues come and go. Let's get through season 1. But there's a couple interesting nuggets. So for one, that report came from, funny enough, Greg Williams, the DC Defenders defensive coordinator. He was on a podcast, and he was talking about the league having a plan to expand to 12 teams in 2025 and then expand to 16 in season 3 in 2026. That feels a little bit fast. I don't know if that's fully accurate. I guess we'll see. I mean, he's in the league, so he probably knows what's going on behind the scenes. I haven't heard that plan specifically. What I will say, which I haven't really talked about this publicly yet, but you know what? Since we're on the topic, I think it's time. When the government approved 8 teams for 2024, I've been told by a couple different league sources that the stipulation in there was that they approved 8 for 2024 with the basically confirming that there would be more in 2025. So what I was told is that there should be at least 10 in 2025. We'll see if that comes to fruition. Again, we have to get through season 1. But as long as we get through season 1 and we get to season 2 and everything holds up the way it's lined up right now, there's a good chance we see expansion. But
then we bring back the gamblers.
Well, I can only handle one of your fan bases at a time. So let's pause. What would happen, and I'm going to go off of talks that we've had on this show. To me, that would be making the most sense. I'll give you my thoughts on what the expansion talks momentarily on like realism. If we did 2 more, if that is the track we go, I mean, New Orleans to me is instantly there because of the talks with that, trying to get the UFL stadium over there that they were working on as a set place. The fan base there made the most sense for the USFL. They didn't have a venue set. So, that's part of the conversation. Now, to backtrack past that to how we're getting to this conversation. So come get some, by the way. That is Greg Williams' own show. Fun fact. DC Defenders defensive coordinator, just as a heads up, and his son Blake Williams do this show together. So that came from Greg. Like he flat out just dropped that as like a nugget of his, at least that he's being implied as. Now, again, how far that really is, I don't know if it's like 12 at some point, sure, but like the reality is this: you got to sell these franchises. You got to start putting costs elsewhere outside of these different organizations and in the league offices. That's how this works and how you get out and about. Now, if there's negotiations that, we go to season 2, no matter what, they need to start pushing to 10 because, hey, federal government says, hey, you made a deal. Well, okay, you kind of don't have a choice there. You kind of get pushed into a corner, but reality of the day, you add 2 teams and you don't get people investing. Well, you're hurting yourself. It's gonna get a little more penny pinching and tighter around there to try and manage 10 rosters, even with the hub systems you have in place. I'm going to say this on UFL podcast. I wanted to wait till then, but I'm going to do it now. I don't want to see another lead up like this or any other spring football league ever again after this year. And that sounds kind of dark. But the truth is, I don't want it because I want to see that we got a league and we're done talking about resetting and hitting the nuke button on this whole operation every 1 or 2 years.
Yeah, we can't be talking about the reemergence of the WLAF in 2 years. Yeah, I don't know if I have it in me, right?
Revitalize every dead brand. That's the new motto these days.
I think what's important to take in mind too is that, this is coming from Greg Williams, who's a coach and obviously knows what's going on. But at the end of the day, throughout this merger process, we heard coaches saying all different things because they were being told a million different things. So with how fluid things were the last several months, things are going to be fluid moving forward as well. So ultimately, expansion is certainly in the future, but at the end of the day, we don't know exactly when it will be in the future. I mean, that's just It's the name of the game.
And that's, I mean, shoot, man, like I said, we haven't even talked about cart before the horse. We haven't even gotten to season 1, and we're going to do that in 12 days. So that's one
Sternberger days away.
Yeah.
You're right there. Josh Love days away, stuff like that too.
He's wearing 15 now. So,
okay. Oh my gosh. Interesting. He's wearing 15, you say. All right.
Yeah.
I'm not ready to move on to that yet. I want to speak one more point on the St. Louis Championship. We're kind of jumping around, but that's okay. We're still kind of in the box.
Hey, we're around the UFL, baby.
Yeah, exactly.
I know. That's what it is. It's around the UFL. The discussion with the championship. So, I think its sizzle isn't the same as it was like several shows ago where like we had Ducky talking about Canton on here about this, but I am with people in the sense that I think you'd look at this in two schools of thought. One, you definitely, I believe with others, you got to rotate it. You can't, I know St. Louis, it's the largest fan base by far in there, and you do want to sell those tickets. But if you say you stabilize, say we add in the part where, we sell a few franchises next year or they get investors and you can kind of like recoup some costs back to you, try and rotate that bad boy. You got people that are negotiated, get some different regions excited and invested in this and start moving it around. Maybe that happens. Maybe it doesn't. I don't know. I mean, heck, even the NFL in its early days, and I know that's a different sports atmosphere entirely when we're talking back to 1967, but like its first several years they hosted in Los Angeles. That's more because they wanted to get things going with the Super Bowl. Mm-hmm. I'm just saying that if you can do it, why not get some other places rotated in? If not, St. Louis is fine. And you know what? I love Canton. I hope that they get a chance to get represented into something. But man, I don't know. It's kind of tough to pinpoint when that's going to be. It's a great neutral site place. The history alone, I'm telling you, that makes it worthwhile. It just comes down now to, do they feel like they'll get more tickets sold out there, or can they increase the sales year over year? We did see last year USFL, they raised the ticket prices. They still sold reasonably in that second championship. But, I'm not going to be completely dishonest with you. Some of those ticket sales were down. Maybe the revenues were up, but there were definitely a few less people in that championship for that case. And it is a neutral site, but it's a historic site. It is a complex discussion once we get past year one. But to reiterate, it is a past year one debate topic we're into right now.
Right. As far as the championship goes, though, I'll be honest, and I think I stated this as much the last time we spoke about it. Yes, would I love Canton to still be in the mix? 100%. I love Canton. I love the size of their stadium. I love the field. It's clean. It's crisp. It's a great facility all around. But, I mean, it's hard to deny that ever since 2019, when the locations for the XFL were announced, St. Louis was and still is the leading fan base in all of spring football. That has never wavered. Yeah. People have had good fan bases, but none have come close to what the St. Louis Battlehawks have done. And I think if you look at that, and if they make the championship, that game is going to be so sold out, it's going to be insane. But I think even if you take that out of the mix, there's still going to be a good amount of Battlehawk fans that are going to show up because one is football in the city. Two, they've just embraced the XFL and now the UFL because they're the ones that gave them a team to root for in the first place, at least after the Rams left town. Mm-hmm. And more importantly, like it's not just people from St. Louis that are going to go. For instance, we're the Crazies. I think we'll probably all be at that game. And there's other people that are going to travel to that game. And at least, even if they don't sell it out, what we've seen with St. Louis is if you can get around 30,000 people in there, it's going to sound loud. It's going to look crazy. And I think combined with the people that are in St. Louis that'll just go to the game because it's close and the people that are going to travel, they have a good option to do that. And then if you throw in St. Louis is in the mix in that game, I think it's hard that they don't sell it out. Either way, that the XFL or Fox or ABC or whoever it is looking at all of the games from last year, whether it's the XFL, the USFL, and there's one thing that stands out, and it's the crowd in St. Louis. And the second runner-up to me is DC, right? DC, if anything, dare I say it, DC might even, if I was going to say any of the locations that you had to use now to be the championship, DC actually might be my pick because I think you'd have just as rowdy of a crowd. People are still going to travel in a smaller stadium. But the Dome, there's another beautiful thing about the Dome. You don't have to worry about weather. And we saw the XFL do that last year with their championship. And people might not remember, there was a worry at the USFL Championship because they had the wildfires in Canada. And there was all that smoke into town. Like it was kind of laying up when you got in, Zach. But when I landed, it was like the densest fog, but it was smoke fire. And there was concern that they might have to delay the game, not just because of visibility, because the smoke, the air quality. Yeah. So putting it in a dome, it saves you all those problems. So that in itself, I see why.
Yeah, it's a good time. I will tell you, DC. I really wouldn't mind seeing it. My thing that it would be if they get to a future rotation. And this is kind of, you see this I know this is not complete apples to oranges. The Super Bowl, part of the discussion when it comes to picking a venue, part of it is the climate and the arena or the venue you're in, but it's also capacity. Mm-hmm. And as much as DC would be great if it had a bigger capacity. I feel like that's what's going to be the ultimate crux if they were to ever discuss a second location, if and when the second rotation, if they get to that point and if it makes sense to do it comes. 20,000 for seats is kind of small when you can. And again, this is why St. Louis, I think, also makes a lot of sense. If there's any chance that the Battlehawks make it, that stadium, and I know people have been jumping right into it, but I buy it. I buy that they can come close to pushing a sellout in that city. You get the right fan bases mixed. It would push easy. And I mean, you're already averaging last year 30K a game, 35K a game, and that's regular season. We haven't seen the playoff atmosphere. They're already opening second level seatings for regular season, and I think that's, no one's going to ever admit that to you, by the way, on a league end, because that's breaking the dam of what the hell is it? The dam of legitimacy, as I've heard of it. But
right.
If they get it, they'll be secretly going in behind a closed door. Yes.
Oh yeah. Oh hell yeah.
All the tickets selling so much merchandise at the game.
Well, they had to be kicking themselves last year when St. Louis didn't make the playoffs, because that would have been a payday.
Well, you know what? Got to win your games.
Yeah, 100%.
They did win 7.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Got to win your crucial games.
Wow. That's what we're 12 days away from seeing. I just feel bad when they play Houston. At least they only play them once in the season. And then, I feel bad. That will be fun. If the Battlehawks make it to the championship, watching my Roughnecks snuff them out in their hometown.
Does ref law apply to XFL teams? You haven't really even tested it with XFLs.
Oh, we're going to find out what refs law means this year. And I don't know if it's good for me or bad. But that's the fun part.
It does mold at whim.
Yeah.
It's the truth.
Refs law knows
Who doesn't love refs law?
Zach last year.
I don't. I don't. I will break this code.
Zach told me he was never going to bet with me again.
I'll bet, but here's the deal. I'm just going to delay my barbecue eating until the end of the year.
There you
Once
go.
we pass all the Houston matchups, I'll start eating again.
Oh, man.
Well, speaking of love.
Yeah, perfect timing. Let's get into the crazy week that was and I'm saying this in the sense of crazy week transaction wise for several bigger names in the space. That's what I want to reiterate. Different things across the board too, and stuff even coming as of yesterday as well. Lots of big names doing different things. And kicking things off, James, I think you segued it perfectly. Josh Love has made his way back into the UFL at the expense of another reasonably known name over in Memphis, Tennessee, if that makes any sense. You also hinted the numbers, so you might know. All right, people know, but number 15's gone for a different 15 this time around.
Cole Kelly's out. And I guess I'll just jump into this one because, it's an interesting move, and it's one that I feel like a lot of Showboats fans are a little bit confused by because Kelly started 8 games for the team last year. He played in 9. And he really was a big part of that team having a 5-game winning streak during the season. But there's a couple factors that you got to take into account here. Is that quarterback room last year? You had Cole Kelly, you had Brady White, and you had Ryan Willis. And Brady and Willis, just especially in an 18 league that we have now, like they weren't great in the USFL last year when we had 16. So with those two guys out, and you bring in Case Cookus and you bring in Troy Williams, who both have been phenomenal throughout camp. And Cole Kelly almost felt like the outlier because while I love Kelly as a quarterback, I think he did a great job in Todd Haley's scheme last year. He is not mobile. Like he's not. And we're at a position now where mobility is so important, not just in the NFL, but especially in the spring leagues, where offensive lines can tend to break down pretty often. I mean, I'm hearing that these defensive lines look really, really good. I mean, offensive lines will be solid as well. But Kelly, if that's a guy where you're now in John DeFilippo's scheme, which is going to have quarterbacks being a little bit more mobile. Todd Haley, Cole Kelly was his Ben Roethlisberger. I know that comparison's been made before, but I feel like it really is a great comparison.
He's prototypical. He looks just like him
in that scheme. And, he came into camp and he was kind of out of shape. I know some of us kind of talked about that, looking at some of the film that we got, through socials and whatnot. It just didn't look like he was moving around back there. Even it looked like he was even slower than last year to an extent. So, yes, he was a starter last year. You get him out. But the thing is, Cole Kelly was QB3. Like, I don't think people understand that. But he was QB3 in camp. So now you bring in Josh Love, who's a little bit more mobile. He has starter experience. And he's coming in purely as QB3. As for QB1, that's still to be determined. But, exciting stuff in Memphis.
It's hard to believe that's to be determined in Memphis. I mean, but
I see the point. I'm good. It's not.
I feel like we might want to roll the clip of. We have a little segment from Coach John DeFilippo from Media Availability last week that he makes a couple interesting comments in there. So we might just want to roll that and then discuss further afterwards.
Yes. And so, are you hitting it, or you want me to hit it?
You go ahead, roll it. You roll it, ref.
It's exciting. We have an added dimension. We have two guys that can really move, and I haven't seen Josh on the field a lot yet because we just got him. So we got guys that can really extend plays with their legs, and so Troy just keeps getting better and better and better and better. Being in this style of offense, it's kind of a little bit new to him, which is cool. It's fun to watch him grow in this style of offense. And so, obviously Case has played a lot of football, a lot of successful football, and so is Josh. And it's an exciting time. It really is. It's just, it's exciting to get going. We need this week. We do need this week to iron some things out. I'm glad we have the second week training camp, and then we get into game week and really tighten things up.
Yeah. So I think his points are pretty valid, especially on Troy. Just going to lay that out there. Because the narrative around Troy Williams is going into the end of the year, into the USFL Championship last season, he improved as a passer week over week. Very much definitely a bit more mobile. Case has wheels, but Troy definitely has better wheels, if that translates any sense. I find that fascinating. It's open though, because I really think it more is going to come down at this point to who's the better passer in camp. Which I mean, we'll see. Case definitely seemed to, by the public's opinion, lead in, but if Troy has continued that upward movement, I guess I'm not surprised if John is going to be laying that out that, hey, you know what, I'll keep it secret, or I'll just keep it secret for every other team out there, and we'll just wait until Saturday, or more likely Friday, before the game's there.
I mean, here something to take into account. Case Cookus was the first pick in the UFL dispersal draft on the USFL side. Troy Williams didn't get picked up until after those drafts were over. So, I mean, obviously he's doing well in camp. I feel like Case is still the favorite, but I just thought that Flip's comments there were pretty intriguing, to say the least. And, another thing that I want to point out is that another guy who asked a question, I believe was Mark Nelson from UFL Board. Shout out Mark. He does a lot of great work. He had asked, is Case a starter? And John's response was, well, I know he'll be on the bus. So that's all he gave us. That's all he gave us. He's leaving it open. I just think his comments on Troy, the fact that he's getting better and better every day, it's exciting. They have two starting caliber guys there, in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, and I've talked about this before. Memphis, if there's any team that scares me, Memphis is one of those teams. Coach Flip has went in there and taken a team that was kind of started out rough last year, worked through some of the pieces, and then I feel like kind of fixed some of the areas that they had troubles with, to where they have the potential to come out strong this season. But I mean, it's always funny with the game of spring football. You can make all the assumptions and thoughts and everything like this based on last year and the year before. But until they actually play the game, because we've all been shocked. I don't think there's anybody here that thought the Pittsburgh Maulers were only going to win one game in 2022. But hey, they did it. Same with I didn't think the Gamblers were going to do as poor as they did. But they did. But now we're going to redeem ourselves 12-0.
Yeah.
So, it'll be interesting to see how all of this goes down. I'm equally curious to see what happens in Houston behind QB, because we have 3 different guys. I don't know if there's really been an indication from Coach Johnson on who is going to get that starting spot.
I quote from last week.
Yeah.
He says, right now, I have no clue. So,
I mean, this is the same guy that's also essentially gone on and said, multiple QB system or multiple QBs taking looks, which, I have my 2 cents on that all the time.
We're going to have more than 2 cents.
Mike Riley flashbacks are running into my brain right now.
How about
I don't know if it'll be that
Johnson
way.
Flashbacks of throwing Montel Cozart into the game in Week 10 when Kenji
That one
Bahar
was
marched
weird.
him down into scoring range, and Cozart first play in there throws a pick straight to Vontae Diggs, I think it was.
Did we win that game though?
You lost and you missed the playoffs because of it.
I don't remember that happening.
Listen here, we got to keep these facts straight, ref. I'm just saying.
You got to put CJ Moore under the gun, ref. I mean, you're giving him a lot of.
See, I'm Switzerland, but I'm also not
here.
afraid to put somebody in their place, and sometimes
This is a different year. Well, we're going to have so many quarterbacks. We might just get rid of all the players and sign, because I don't know, is there a rule on that? We don't need a kicker. We got a quarterback. We got another quarterback. Wide receiver. Who needs that
Canadian
quarterback?
legend JJ Molson's on the team.
Yeah. I mean, again, Luis Aguilar.
The beer man himself is on the team.
I know. If it wasn't for that name, I'd still be mad about Luis Aguilar, but it's a dang shame.
My gosh. Yeah. I tell you what, like that stuff like that always gets me, I guess with anticipation and anxiousness with quarterback decisions like that, cause you think, you think from looking, you see some practice tape, you see and read the reports from practices or training camp, and you assume you understand who's going to get what, but you're not in the coach's head. You're not in the personnel decision-making in those rooms on what to do. I mean, if I'm being honest, like if we're going to go back to John DeFilippo for a second, it's almost felt like anyone for the most part who was a ex-Memphis showboat has been under the gun this entire offseason because, you're Todd, not saying he's doing this, but it feels like you're Todd Haley's guy, so I need to put my guy here that I want a bit more of. Now, Cole Kelly, more eval. But, early on, the first round of cuts, the amount of people that lost their minds over Derek Dillon not making that first round of cuts is still resonating. And he has not gone anywhere yet for a guy that's as versatile at 2 position groups.
I heard that he was dealing with a couple of injuries in camp, which probably played a factor in the decision.
Most likely.
The reality of the situation is this is very similar to what we see happening in NFL training camps all the time. Is guys that are really, really talented that, little tweak, a little injury, and next thing you know, they're not on a roster anymore. So I think that this is the first time where we're really seeing this at a huge scale in spring football, because we're cutting from 75 to 50. We've never seen anything like this before. And the brutality of the business is hitting us full force.
And injuries have been brutal in recent weeks too. Time to talk about one that sent a lot of shockwaves. And I think if you're in DC or in the Metro and you're a Defenders fan, I'm not saying it's like sky's fallen, but for what they do best and how they run that offensive scheme out there, Abram Smith going on IR is a massive shot in the leg, complete pun intended there, to the plans that might be moving forward. Jordan Ta'amu and company, very talented unit, but Abram Smith, that's the setup man right there. The guy that is the heart, that to me is the heart and soul of the offensive unit going and being as successful as it is. And you're going to miss plenty to most of the season time. pretty much all of season time ACL wise, you're knocked out. You're done. You're done so for pretty much the year in that way, if not close to it, depending on the injury's severity.
Yeah, he's out for the year.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a tough blow because DC for me was the second best team in the league. I feel like Birmingham is still on top, although it's really getting close to St. Louis now with all their pickups. But DC was clearly in the XFL conference. I still feel like they were the team to beat just because of what they did last year. To lose Abram Smith. Now, Von Hutchins, Reggie Barlow, the general manager and head coach there in DC, they have attracted so much NFL talent to this team. They've made a lot of signings of guys that have been at the NFL level. But to lose Abram Smith, who was your first pick in the XFL draft minus quarterbacks last year, and he just dominated. You look at his numbers compared to the rest of running backs, not just in the XFL, but even in the USFL. I mean, he was clearly the best back come into the UFL this year, in my opinion. To lose him, to not have him in the backfield, and now you're looking at a guy that's a second or third string back when there's so much talent. I don't know. It's like he opened up so much for Jordan Ta'amu, and now I'm a little bit worried because we saw how Ta'amu looked in 2022 with the Tampa Bay Bandits, and something that people kind of forget about, he had zero help in the rushing game. Their running backs averaged like around 2.8 yards a carry, I think, that year. Give or take.
And that continued. That's a Todd Haley trait, by the way, because that continued last year, if you remember. Just can never get a consistent run game.
I want to, make it clear that Reggie Barlow's system is certainly better. And he's done a great job. And Fred Keiss as well, the offensive coordinator there in DC. But it is worth noting that, Jordan Ta'amu became the XFL Offensive Player of the Year because of what Abram Smith was able to open up for him on the ground, in the ground game. In the USFL, where Ta'amu, he led the league in touchdowns. He also led the league in interceptions. A lot was on his shoulders because he just had to make a play every single down. So if that pressure is back on his shoulders, we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Right. And I think Jared here in the comments brings up a great point. Now, Ta'amu's going to have to get some new familiarity. Credit camp, this is what this is for. But, would be nice in this instance to have a guy like a Lucky Jackson or Chris Blair to lean on coming into the season when you have something like this where your rock behind you in the running game is not available. And, Cameron Harris and Darius Hagans, for the most part, it seems, would be the ones that are picking up this load. Not sure which one, if it's going to be a bell cow system or in the cases where you see a lot of bell cow types like a Smith go out, usually just start splitting up the carries unless someone in camp's going to appear to be fine to take that workload. But those are some questions you're going to have to raise, is how do you handle that depth in that position? Can one of those two take up that load that Smith was? Because he is a bell cow, very versatile. He was the majority snap guy in DC last year. Now you have to account for that, especially now mid-camp with this being so late in the camp with an injury like this of this magnitude. That's another thing. It's a complete audible in, I would say, one of the more less ideal spots you could have in training camp with half the time already gone.
Yeah, it's this is the tough part about this, is the injuries and the changes, but that's the one beauty of, I guess not the beauty of it, but the other side of the coin on it is we have such a huge roster pool. And I've talked about this in the weeks leading up to this, is we're going to see some of these guys back in this league, and we're going to see them back, like some before, some during the season. I know we talked about expansion. I really honestly do think it's too early to talk about expansion, but this is the argument for why you want to do it sooner rather than later, is you essentially have more or less 8 teams of players at the ready. And even at a worst case scenario, let's say you take a year off, I would say at least 4 teams worth of players will be ready to play. Not to say that you should expand 4 teams. I think the 10 is more likely than a 12 in a year too, if anything, right?
Speculation zone.
Yeah, speculation zone. Please don't clip this and think we're talking fact here, because again, anyway. But yeah, this is the unfortunate truth of, training camp. And like you said, James, this isn't exclusive to spring football. This is just the nature of any sport, not even just football, basketball and everything in between. Lacrosse, it happens. Do we talk about Chris Orr, right?
We haven't gotten there yet. And it's one of, again, several like just bigger name kind of transactional pieces that have gone this week. Again, we're not even close to done. There's still like 2 more extra that we have that are big bullet points we want to hit on. But Chris Orr's retirement, I think that was one that snuck up on a lot of people. But as we can talk about the reasoning behind it, which is your career path post football, when you have a in the way you are at Baylor, kind of hard to not take that when you're thinking about your career past playing the game on the field.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Again, it's man, the Stallions fans, they're going back to back. Although he played for the Generals during his time with the USFL, he was currently signed to the Stallions. So, I mean, from an optics perspective, looking at it, Stallions fans got to be like, man, first Bo Scarborough, now Chris Orr. But I think there's one shining light if you're a Stallions fan, and we saw this last year. If anybody's going to dig you out of an injury hole, it's Coach Skip Holtz. That guy was able to coach a team that at one point had 14 injuries on the team, and that mixed with not playing every game at home only resulted in 1 extra loss. So, I mean, am I worried for the Stallions? No. I'm only worried for them when they're playing the Houston Roughnecks, which is going to be twice this year. So I hope they're looking ready to get roughed up. But, as a Stallions fan, I wouldn't be too worried on the rest of the games. It's just when you have to meet the Roughnecks in the playoffs that you should maybe hope that you had somebody like Chris Orr back on the team when the Roughnecks run all over you.
Yeah, I mean, another guy that you can trust in Birmingham is Zach Potter. I mean, that guy.
Oh, 100%.
It's insane to me that he's my age doing what he's doing at the professional level as a general manager. And, he went out and he signed Malik Hall, who's likely going to be Chris Orr's replacement. We'll see if he makes the final roster. But that's a guy, he has experience. He just came out of camp with the New York Jets. Didn't make the practice squad, but, he had some good moments there. And that's a young, talented guy that I think could fit into this scheme. I don't see him being a starter, but I see him, providing some depth on the bench. It's not going to be easy to replace Chris Orr, though. I mean, that guy, when you talk about ball IQ, I feel like Chris Orr is just a definition of a high IQ player. Just watching him play, watching him lead that Generals defense the last 2 years, he's posted almost 150 tackles, a few sacks, forced fumbles. He's just a guy that he's everywhere. And I remember talking to Mike Riley during the season because Orr had missed a game or two with an injury, and then he decided to come back early from that injury. He played injured to finish the year just to try to give New Jersey a chance to make the postseason down the stretch. And I believe I watched it was either week 8 or week 9. He came back and he led the team with like 12 or 13 tackles. He was just out there flying around, making plays, dealing with an injury. He's just a leader. Mm-hmm. That's just what he's done his whole career. Mm-hmm. And now he's going to do it coaching. So I'm excited for him, assistant linebackers coach at Baylor. And we're all wishing him the best. Absolutely.
Yeah. Baylor, like I said, that's where I'm like, you read about the opportunity and I'm like, yeah, no, dude, look, if you're going to go into coaching a lot of these players, it's a great, their college background allows to help them start out in a path they want to get into assistant roles. If they want to build up to a coordinator position, or even head coaches. Again, we're seeing a lot more player coaches these days. They're becoming the norm even more so than it seems ever before. And it's just like that to me, it's a great time to do it. He's had his time to shine in these leagues. I will miss having someone of his talent here. If you're talking as a Stallions fan analyzing this, the linebacker position was something I was watching. And I think even if Nick was on this show, it'd be the same way, where it's a very tight room. A lot of clustered individuals with the talents. I mean, we're talking about with Tizino, Wright, and DeMarcus Gates also on that list on the depth chart. And you were going to have to figure out with Chris Orr, it was no matter what, like someone might either have to be sitting or was going to get the chopping block in this case. Now that does open the floor a little bit back up here, and it's maybe a little less of a concern. There was good depth there is what I'm trying to tell you people, but or leaving opened that up. I was going to wonder though, how that would work with the final day of cuts on Saturday. If you had to pick, say you had to pick a bigger name and you had a position where it didn't make sense to keep someone and they wanted to move on. So, Chris Orr, hey, for us at Around the UFL here, wishing you the best on your journey. If you are watching, or if you do watch this later on at some point and see this, it's cool you're getting to go and do what you want to do, and at least getting to start a new and exciting adventure in the world of college athletics and in college coaching, the world of coaching all over. So fascinating stuff.
In the
It's also
greatest
real
state
quick,
to coach in.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, that's all I had. The greatest state to coach in, Texas. You know.
Texas.
Yeah, well, it's speaking of coaches, it is worth noting that his brother is a linebackers coach in Baltimore with the Ravens. So who knows? We could see
Not
him
the
head to
best city
Baltimore
to
at some point.
coach in or state.
Hey, I want blue crab is delicious. Just gonna say, I tried soft shell crab the first time this year, and it is freaking fantastic. So, if anything, I want to go to Baltimore for some freaking soft shell blue crab and bit of the seafood flair, man. East Coast seafood, it's no joke.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
a good scene. Can confirm. But yeah, if we're talking football, man, it's Texas all the way.
Oh, yeah.
It's easily Texas.
Texas is the best.
It's one of two capitals of football. I put Ohio as the other one because of Canton. That's all I'm going to tell you. Another big news story, and it's weird. It's like we've had two of the stories where we're seeing guys cut and return. Well, three if we're going to count. Sorry, three. This is the second of the three, really. In Channing Stribling, and this is a more recent one here that we're seeing. He is back now. A lot of people did get shocked that he was let go. Again, another Birmingham release we're discussing, but keep in mind another position group very deep in that position is part of what was the issue. And he's going to be going to a place, funny enough, James, he was supposed to be going to last season. He's back in St. Louis. This time, though, he's sticking around. There's no choosing between leagues. He is going to be going to play and compete with the Battlehawks and to try and compete for those guys out in the 314.
Yeah, Channing Stribling, I know the league hasn't officially announced it yet, but yeah, he's signing with the Battlehawks, and this is a big pickup. They released Mikael Wright to make room for him, and I think Wright is a fantastic player. He did some great things with the Sea Dragons last year, but Channing Stribling is Channing Stribling. We've watched this guy play at such a high level for the last, 5 years now? He was with the Memphis Express in the AAF and just was phenomenal. He played in the XFL with Seattle in 2020. Then he played in the spring league. A lot of people forget that he was in the spring league with the Generals. I think for at least one season, potentially two. And he had a couple great years there. And then he ended up in Philadelphia, all USFL, led the league with 7 interceptions in 2022. I know last year the numbers weren't great, but he was injured for most of the year. He's dealing with injuries. He was playing with injuries. And then he was inactive for a few games. That's a guy that I think can come in, and with the amount of talent they have in that secondary, I don't know if he'll win a starting job, especially coming in this late, but he's a guy that can compete for a roster spot and will bring so much depth to that roster. Like you said, he was drafted by the St. Louis Battlehawks back in the 2022 XFL draft. Another nugget, Martin Bayless, who is the DB's coach with the Stars, he's now on Anthony Beck's staff. So a couple of big connections there. And I think, to have Bayless on the staff and now to bring Stribling in, that just makes that secondary group even stronger. So yeah, it's a great pickup for St. Louis. And funny enough, I was talking to Coach Beck about last week about the secondary group. I know we have a clip we could potentially roll on that one if we want to go ahead and
take a shot at it.
Let me pull it up. Coach Beck coming right up.
And really, to get to that, I mean, we did revamp our secondary. Seabass, Sebastian is our lone really guy that and Ben that we just we need to add pieces, and they have to get it and get it down quickly. And I just trust my defensive coordinator Donnie Abraham. I mean, look, this guy played at a very high level in the NFL, and he's a great teacher, and he's very, very clear on what he wants them to do and how he wants them to do it. And those guys have to buy into that very quickly. And Martin Bayless adding him on as well. With his experience at the position as well. I just feel like I should see expedited improvement with those guys. And yeah, it may take a little time. It's continuing to grow in camp, but our goal is by March 30th, like we need to go. We can't wait. And our guys have to get it done. And again, going back to our meeting this morning, I called some DBs out. And again, it's to help them understand what the standard is. Some of these guys maybe not know where they came from, what the expectation level was. And I try to present that to them every single day, DBs, linebackers, offensive line, because they need to be reminded, because these players have not done it at a consistent level. at this professional level. So they have to understand that it has to be reminded to them. And that's on me. That's on my staff. And the secondary, my eyes will be on them. And that's why we improved our interior and outside pass rushers and guys up, because all that's got to come together now. So we have 19 days. And I said, we can look at it two ways. 19 days, like, man, it's almost here. We're running out of time. Or like, man, we got 19 more days, like big picture, how much better we can improve and get better. So I want those guys to understand that there's got to be urgency, but yet we have time to continue to build, but we got to do it right more often over these 19 next days to the season.
Yeah. And look, I think the best part of that clip to me is like, it's go time, essentially. Like, the competition level, and I know some people might get crazy. You watch all these shows like us and around the UFL and maybe UFL podcast if you're sick in the PFN universe, and we say it a lot. The competition's tough. The competition's hardcore. Trying to make sure, as Anthony's been saying, that these guys understand, like, this is now, there is no like second same option this year, or something like that. Like, we are trying to hit the best top standard of football in this space that you can have, and that we are trying to project the best quality guys here. And they're trying to specifically bring a championship to the Battlehawks and to a city that, as Anthony has shown, he's adopted. The city's adopted him. The city has adopted that team greatly. And so, for crying out loud today, freaking Jake Henry of our own contingent found that if McDonald's is giving you freaking food items in the local St. Louis area, that shows something, and other businesses are respecting it in the exact same way. They're considered a legitimate team in that city. They want to bring a championship, and that's the crown jewel this league is having right now in terms of examples of pushing forward. So, it's not only about the league tier of play, but for their city, there's a little bit of extra pride because these guys have stuck by them for 5 years through in and out action. I just feel like they're embracing that even more.
They're a big,
let's get it done.
Yeah. Well, they're a big deal in St. Louis when at the Cardinals game, the MLB Cardinals, they're giving away Cardinals and Battlehawks themed hats, which, if anybody's listening to this show and you're going, I want one of those hats, they're cool looking. Again, if it was a Roughnecks hat, yeah, I'd want that even more, but it is a slick hat. But to me, I think what you said, both of you guys, is Becht is kind of, he's adopted the city, but the city has equally adopted him back. And that could have gone the wrong way last year when you had Coach Hayes still in the league, but not as the team's head coach. That could have went sideways. There could have been some blowback with that. But I think, Becht is a football guy. This is one of the things that I watched last year during his interviews. If anything, he's active on social media. Mm-hmm. He's not just talking about the XFL and the USFL and the UFL. Like, he is analyzing games out there. And you know what? He loves his family. So I kind of like that too. Like, I'll tell you, this guy loves his wife. He is proud to mention it on social media. So sign him up. You can't be mad at him. So you know what? I always like to hear from Coach Becht. And if he can get that team into the playoffs this year, sure, this might not be the NFL, but that guy could open up a business in St. Louis and make a career on it for the rest of his life if they win a championship game or at least just win a playoff game.
As Darius Shepard put it when he was on our show a few weeks ago, he's a player's coach. And I feel like that's just reflected throughout his actions, and then like he said in that clip, it's on him and his staff to get these guys ready. Like, he's taking full responsibility. I remember another soundbite from that interview or from that media availability was, he said, if the team's not out there and he's playing well, he wants the fans to boo him out of the stadium. Mm-hmm. He said that straight up. He's taking this thing seriously, and I think it's great to see guys like Anthony Becht, who were successful at the NFL level, who have been professionals their entire life, to take a league like this so seriously. I think it gives legitimacy to the UFL, and it's something that you can continue to grow upon, not just in the brand in St. Louis, but across the league in general.
Well, that's what I think as a whole, not just the coaching staffs and all that, but like the ecosystem for football, the more you can have people that take this as like, hey, this is legitimate, the better. And we're representing ourselves that way too. Anthony has been an ideal spring football head coach of embracing that culture and kind of saying, let's push it forward. In terms of the roster, I did like his point on Donnie Abram. Abram did have a pretty successful career in the NFL, NFL over his 9-season career, specifically mostly with Tampa Bay during their resurgence in the late 90s and 2000s, that John Gruden era of Tampa Bay defense. And he's been through the ringer with multiple places, including the spring football scene, because before he came back to St. Louis, he was with the Apollos. He's also been in the Arena Football League. So he's aware, trying to find the best competent talent to get the best out of these guys that are trying to get to that next level. It's part of that DNA. But, they're going to be rigorous about this too. Getting Channing in is great. That being said, this late in the game, I still don't believe that is a guarantee. I think that his talent does help a lot. But what's interesting, like I said, it's cutthroat. It's go time. So, even with him being released, and he's been off a roster now for a little bit of time at this point, he's got to realize too, hey, we got 1 week right now before I got to get cut downs. And I'm going to have to impress and make sure that I'm the guy that was evaluated by the Stallions and probably by the rest of the league and by the Battlehawks, mind you, back a year ago, that I am going to be able to step aside and maybe be with a Brandon Sebastian out in the secondary to anchor down the Battlehawks, because it's going to be competitive even more so than last year in the XFL or the USFL. Like I said, it's time to hunker down, time to get the best of the best of the best. And he'll be aware of it. He's a pro's pro. Channing is. It's just, you got to, when you're in that situation and coming in, and again, we're already well into training camp, you have, a bit of catch up / I need to really hit it off right away is what's going to have to happen, Unless
what's interesting is that St. Louis has been trying to get him for a year and a half at this point. And this is literally their first chance to actually have finally gotten him, because, right after they drafted him, not too long after they drafted him, he ended up signing back to the Stars. And obviously he wasn't available under USFL contract. But then with the way the dispersal drafts went, the XFL teams in the first round, or the first set of picks, I guess you could say, they weren't allowed to touch the USFL players. Mm-hmm. So even if the Battlehawks wanted to get him then, they couldn't, because Birmingham picked him up. So I think he'll have a pretty good chance of making the roster, just because he's, one, a guy that they've wanted for quite a while, and two, with Martin Bayless there on the staff. But we'll see. No guarantee. I mean, obviously, with the releases we've seen, there are no guarantees.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's been brutal, but it's that date is around the corner. What, the 23rd? We should have a clear idea of what teams will be looking at realistically a week from that date. When we're spring stock 3-ing it up.
Final item we wanted to bring up in terms of bigger names this week, and as you know, are we about to talk about my favorite move? Well, we can't. Even when we take a break from talk about Houston, somehow, some way, it's
it always comes back.
When it seems like when I've gotten out, they pull me back in, even if I'm not voluntarily choosing to do so. As Carlo Kemp and Isaiah Chambers both getting picked up. Kemp being, I think, to me, really the one that a lot of people stuck out, because and it's funny, the connection with Birmingham. It's 3 guys this week. We talked about Zach Potter moves or things that are related to moves with Zach Potter. Kemp was another one that, when cuts happened the first time around, was surprised to see his name. And now he is over, giving, at minimum, could be a depth spot, a really good depth spot for a Gamblers team that seems to be leaning more heavily than ever into defense first football.
And who was the one that said it? I want to know, was that Thorne that maybe at the beginning of all this said, oh, well, Houston, they don't have anybody for defense. You're not even going to be able to look at Houston without falling over.
To be fair, Houston has been basically slowly over camp going, I'll take this one.
Because we're geniuses.
That's what they've been doing.
Masterminding a championship team, not even championship quality, undefeated. And this is how you do it. Our man Carlo Kemp. Yeah. Some will point out, he played for the Maulers 1-9. Well, he also went on to the Chargers, helping them out on the practice squad, but now he's here. He wants that ring, baby, and he's going to get one with C.J. Johnson.
I mean, speaking of C.J. Johnson, we do have a clip of him talking about the Brahma scrimmage. Might be a good segue.
Let me pull up my coach here. Do we? There he is right there. Somebody labeled it Curtis. Who's Curtis? Anyway, let's pull up our man, CJ.
San Antonio, I thought did a fine job. I thought they're a really good team. They're very emotional. Andre Guerrero, he did an internship, O-line coach with us at the Saints. Thought he had his guys very well prepared. They blocked us well. They threw and caught it well. But I thought for the most part, I thought we ran around, we made some mental mistakes. Quarterbacks played pretty good. Man, they made some throws that the other day. I like what the running backs did. They were right on track. We caught it well. Didn't got our hands on one ball. Didn't get our hands on enough balls. But I thought we did good. It was good work. I love the work.
Man, I love my coach. I love him. He's so cool.
God bless him for having the Curtis's iPad in the corner. That got me earlier this week.
Well, you got to know whose iPad it is, and that's Curtis's. I don't know if he got the memo though. His name's CJ now.
Message still got across. I just thought that was a little. You see stuff like that. You like, oh, it's I don't know. Zoom humor is like 3 years old at this point, given the thing that shall not be named because YouTube and all that jazz.
Oh yeah,
but it still makes me laugh when I see something like that. But look, scrimmages have been pretty prevalent in the training camps, it seems, and they're doing making sure that you're getting evals in, getting a lot more of these reps in. And I will say, the Houston ones, at least for the clips we saw, credit social media team does kind of clip the best of the best. You're not going to see everything, but some of the Houston clips were pretty nice. Not going to lie. There was some decent stuff from Reed Sinnett and company, that did get some good execution.
And they didn't even show you the good stuff. So you have a whole lot coming to you.
It was only the average stuff,
yeah,
it wasn't that great.
Unlike the first season with the Gamblers, this year we're doing it all backwards. We're not scoring unless it's the last minute of the fourth quarter. And so when you think we're down and out, we're going to put up like 28 points in like a 5-minute span. Good night.
And the defense is so stacked. Like it'll be like only like a 7-point deficit anyway. So
exactly. It won't even be 7. It'll be 0. Somehow, actually, we'll be up 2 just from our defense. We're going to get a safety in there, and that's it. We'll be good.
How about a pick 6? Corn Elder. I love his name. Corn Elder. It's like the coolest name.
Sounds like a callback to 2022, watching Michigan's first game.
Oh, that was a good game.
Yeah, Reggie Northrup's pick interception there. That was that one got sealed pretty quick. Yeah. It was not pretty.
Man, it's a shame.
Jay Patterson.
Well, oh yes,
they're killing our tradition. Why couldn't they have the Panthers in Houston for opening weekend? Oh man.
We'll have our week. It's gonna come where we'll talk. It's funny, like this year, it's like I'll go to a Houston game. Like after we do spring stock, it's basically gonna be like me trying to rush to like get to watch Michigan play.
Yeah,
to see how that one goes against St. Louis, by the way. So talk about a first week test, if anything. So
yeah, I know. Wacky. I know, man. 12 days, boys, 12 flipping days.
He's coming really fast. It's feeling like we're like, I'm telling you, dude, I looked at my work, like vacation calendar and I didn't realize we're like, I have the ref here, he's hitting me up like yesterday about like, oh yeah, we need to have a call about like certain elements of like items we're getting. And I'm like, oh my God, it's 2 weeks out. It just kind of like snuck up on me for some reason. Like it's 2 weeks away.
That's how it happens, man. That's how it happens. And this year, dude, spring stock is going to be so fun this year because we are just rolling with it. We are just doing it. But you know what? We always find a way, and that's what's going to be most fun about this year. We do have a couple other clips left here. I don't know, James, which one do you think we should start with? We have our friend that used to play up in New Jersey, and then we have a newcomer that I don't know. I think some of the kids might have heard of him down in San Antonio.
Some of the youth.
The youth. Who do you think we start with here?
Hey, well, I know. I think the first clip of our guy destroying, talking about Peyton Pardee, you might want to throw that one up. Keep it serious, and then we'll get to the fun ones in a moment.
Yeah, let's pull it up right now.
A lot's leading up to this opening game for you guys coming up here against DC. Yeah. When you kick that first field goal, and when you make that first field goal, are you thinking about any potential celebrations we could see after you knock your first one through?
Be a secret, man. It's gonna be a secret. Obviously, I don't have a lot of time on the field. If I do knock that through, I'm gonna have to get ready for kickoff. So I don't know. Me and Brad got a little handshake. We got to get the handshake with the holder. Gotta dap Rex up. Gotta congratulate my guys and thank them for blocking. But I don't know. I gotta start thinking of that. We getting through training camp right now. We'll cross that bridge when we get there.
At least I got the right player. Okay. But
That was
you
not
see-
about Peyton Pardee, but it was close. It was close.
You see how I made the mistake, though. The clip number 2 is listed on top. But let's talk about that one real quick, and then we'll go to the other one. But
I'll
if anybody
you-
was wondering, yeah.
I'll tell you what he's going to do. His camera crew is going to run on the field for his mini series, and they will film a quick little snippet to make sure they get it done. Just enough time to where the ref doesn't throw a flag, and then they move off to the side.
Not if I have anything to say about it.
Dante, hey, gotta get those views, man. Gotta get those views.
He's been getting them, man. I mean, looking at it, I will say, I mean, it's pretty cool to see some of the videos he's posted lately with just the insights into behind the scenes and in camp. And a guy I do want to highlight quick is Madre Harper. I know the league isn't really promoting much of what he's been doing, but the Stallions cornerback, and he's been vlogging his UFL experience. So if those of you watching, if you haven't seen that yet, check out Madre Harper. He's been vlogging stuff as well. It's cool to see the players doing stuff like this, and I hope we get more of it.
I hope we do get more. I know there was, I feel bad now, but there was one player in 2020. I think he was on the Dragons, not the Sea Dragons, that started like a blog or a vlog on YouTube going into the XFL season. And I always thought that was super cool. I hope more players do this. And then, 2020 happened. Didn't really get much further than that. But we've seen it more. And I guess, of course, social media has been growing more and more since even 2020. So it's nice to see more of these people jumping in.
Video access alone has been growing. That's the other thing too. We're talking a lot about the potential TikTok ban and all that, but like that application alone has forced so much more like video in real life type of moments. That's how social media seems to have evolved. And so like you're getting stuff like that. I'm glad, James, I'm glad you highlighted that it's not like there are multiple people that are talking this sport. Then, like it's good. I will say it's not, to put full disclosure, it's not the stuff I watch football for, but if it brings more people, I can live with it because it helps the sport I love. So
it's like the Taylor Swift thing. It brings people in.
Exactly. Look, same deal. I don't care about Taylor Swift personally. Like I'm not a fan of Taylor Swift. Taylor Swift is not in any of my current mental, like cultural zeitgeist in my head, but it helps the NFL. And I get that. So I'm like, I see what's happening. That's good. Having Destroying in this league, hey, I don't watch his videos. It's not my type of thing, even though it is football related content, but it helps the league that I want to see grow. So I'm like, hey, it's great, and he made the roster fair and square. That's something to keep in mind. Someone actually, we give applause, by the way, because we do want to hear from you guys at post show. And Destroy made the roster, and we saw the clips from, other various sources. He was the better kicker in camp and won the spot fair and square and was very accurate at times. 58-yard field goals, no slouch to hit. That's a beast of a kick to do in any situation. So, they got the right guy. And not to mention, we talked about this, kickoffs more important than ever. And if you can have better kickoffs in this league, especially the kickoffs this year, I mean, if you're better talented and you're doing all that stuff correctly, good for you, man. I mean, that's it.
Absolutely. And talking with Peyton Pardee last week, that's exactly what he mentioned, was that Matt Amendola did have a little bit of a better field goal percentage overall, but it was Destroying's kickoffs where he shined. Like that was where he really set himself apart, and it's so important when you're kicking off from the 20 and you're trying to get it 80 yards to the end zone. Because again, the USFL last year, they had the average starting field position was like the 37.5-yard line. And some teams with kickers that struggled on that, some teams were giving the ball to the opponents basically past the 40.
Yeah.
So that's a really big part. It's an emphasis that's being put on by these special teams coordinators, on specifically something that Peyton Pardee talked about.
Do you want me to bring up the other clip now?
Yeah, let's.
Might as well. Yeah, we're talking about Peyton Pardee.
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it. And speaking of the coaches, I know you've been working closely with Peyton Pardee, who's the special teams coach there. What can you say about what you've learned from him so far and just the things that he's been able to point you in the right direction throughout this process so far?
Man, first I'm going to say he cares about us a lot. Something that stands out to me is every time we break a meeting or a huddle or anything, he tells us that he loves us. So, that's playing for a coach that really cares about you, wants you to be successful, wants you to do well. It's an amazing feeling, man. And I've played for some coaches in the past that I didn't necessarily feel that way. I think with this staff, I play with more of not of a fear of failure. I just do my thing. They trust me. They know what I'm capable of. And I don't know, it's just helped me kind of break out of my shell and do what I'm supposed to do and be confident and consistent and just be happy being here.
I love this new segment of the show, by the way. I think this is a great addition. No curtains.
No curtains. James suggested this, and this has been a great addition to the show. So,
like today, by the way, this is so like this got put together like today, and I think this is great because would we love to have interviews on every week? 100%. But
they will be coming back, just so you guys know.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's been, and just for full transparency on the show, the last couple of weeks, players are focused on training camp. The coaches are focused on training camp. These guys, they're in meetings constantly. A couple of guys that have tried to get on, they literally would be in meetings while the show's going on. And it's one of those things where we're respecting the players. They have a goal of making the roster. Once we get past that stage, it'll be a little bit easier to get some guests on. But just for full transparency on that, interviews will be coming back 100%. So
yeah, which I'm looking forward to. But in the meantime, I think this is a great replacement for that. And how cool is that? We kind of had Destroying on our show this week. How exciting and cool is that?
Count it.
Yeah. You know what? For somebody that tuned in for 10 seconds, they'd be like, "Oh, look at that! They just interviewed Destroying on their show." And sign us up. That's right, we did. Get over it.
I'll go. Yeah, good. It's good. I'm glad. Great job, by the way, James, with the discussion pieces on that.
But you know what? I'm going to admit that there was a clip that I forgot to put in our database.
Really?
Unfortunately, it has to do with San Antonio. So I'll just recap that really quick. Wade Phillips was talking about the quarterback situation with the Brahmas. Obviously, they have three talented guys there: Tom Flacco, Quentin Dormady, and Chase Garbers. He said that as of right now, Tom Flacco is QB3. So that's right now. He hasn't decided a starter, but it's up in the air between Dormady and Garber. So just a little update for our Brahmas fans down there in San Antonio. He spoke very highly of both. He said Dormady's arm was just ridiculously strong, but I don't think he's made a decision there quite yet.
Another QB battle to watch, which there is a lot this time around. It feels like last year we had a good idea who was going to start at the beginning of the season, knowing that the beginning of the season, the end of the season, two totally different things. We saw that in the first year in the USFL, where basically, maybe one of the 8 starters at the beginning of the season was still around at the end. I don't know. It was kind of all over the place. But yeah, this year with the competition, Houston, I couldn't tell you who's going to start between the 3 options. San Antonio, if I were to guess, it's probably Dormady. But I'm not the coach. I'm not there at training camp. A year is a long time. It might not seem like it, but when it comes to playing, and especially with different coaches and receivers and things like that, who knows? It feels like St. Louis. McCarron's back, so you probably know your quarterback there. DC Tamu's, I would assume, still going to be the starter. Michigan, though, do we know who's starting up there yet? No.
Yeah, it's still fuzzy.
Right?
No clarity. The last I talked to Nolan, he's liked what he's seen from everybody. They released Brian Lewerke, which I feel like was kind of the obvious choice to make there. No disrespect to Brian, but you've got Danny Etling, you've got Davis Cheek, and then you've got EJ Perry, who led the team on that sensational run down the stretch. So a lot of talent in that room. I feel like Davis Cheek is probably going to end up as QB3. Not because I think he has the talent to start, honestly, but you have Perry, who was already in the system, who already worked with the team last year, and Danny Etling's been with the Green Bay Packers the last 2 or 3 years. He's been with the New England Patriots. So right now, I'd say the starting position toss up between Etling and Perry. It's hard to say, but we'll see. We're going to get a lot of answers over the next week. That's for sure.
Yeah. Which is why you want to be subscribed, because next Monday's show is surely going to be a banger heading into the season. And Zach, we should probably find some time to get a good old UFL podcast in there before we hit spring stock as well.
It's lead up to spring stock. We have to do them now. It's back. It's going to be lead up this week and next. We're going to be doing that, covering any other news pieces. We got to get more in depth. So highly expect you will see an episode Friday morning drop of me and the ref here doing our usual shtick at each other. It'll be a good time.
Well, I think the 29th. I think the 29th we do a special location day before Spring Stock 1. Because I got a place over on the lake we should go shoot.
I was gonna say we can. I was saying this not this week, but next we absolutely will be able to have the first ever in-person UFL podcast. Not talking Spring Stock, Summer Stock. I'm talking first ever episode where it is you and I in a same location setting where we can have it like a studio show.
Yeah.
First time in almost 3 years.
We might do it on the, I'll just drive around on the golf cart, and you, as long as you can hold the mixer so it doesn't fall over, I'll be able to hold the mic. We'll be good.
On location is the ref. Yeah. Let's see what he's doing at the gas station. What are you picking up, Stefan?
It'll be beer. Oh boy. Well, anyway, we are getting a little close to time here. We have one clip left. Our friend from formerly of the Generals. So you want to tee that one up for us?
Yeah, you know what? I think we'll just let the clip speak for itself. I don't want to spoil it. It's just a little word for all the people that are tuned in. We appreciate you, and a little bit of exciting news from Darius Victor coming on up. I got to ask it, Vito. I mean, you've been the guy with the Generals the last couple years, and one of your catchphrases, thick thighs save lives. So you think we might get some more of that on TV this year?
Oh, absolutely, man. I still have linemen. I still hide behind them. It's just paying homage to the linemen. And I still don't plan on breaking a lot of tackles with my thick thighs. So absolutely, that's the plan, to keep it going, and look out for thick thighs near you soon,
Dude,
you
sign him up.
Thick thighs near you soon. It's coming. The Memphis Showboats. You guys better be there. You better be getting your tickets to go watch Coach Flip, friend of the show, tearing it up with the Showboats. Darius Victor, thick thighs himself. It's going to be fun. There's going to be a lot of show in those boats this year.
I fully can't wait for that. I can't wait, by the way, if we're talking Memphis, and credit roster cuts might still happen, but dude, the Trey and Victor brothership, the bros returning to each other being comrades. It's if they both stick, I will be thrilled to see those two. And at least this time, it feels like being the dynamic 1 and 2 punch for sure.
Absolutely.
And having to play again.
You'd have to imagine that at this point they're likely to stick since they only have 3 running backs rostered. Most teams would stick with 3 running backs. So unless they somehow decide to make a cut, that would make the most sense. Titus Wynn, Trey Williams, and Darius Victor.
Yeah, dude, I am looking forward to this season. And you know what I hope, because they still have a deal or a partnership with Breaking T. I can't wait. I hope they have those weekly spotlight T-shirts.
Please.
And it's going to be hard not to have 10 Houston Roughnecks shirts, one for every week, because it's going to be, that's where that kind of highlight team.
I still got the Reggie Corbin. I wear this on regular.
You guys mind if I do just a quick little promo here to wrap things up?
Yeah,
Please.
Sign you up.
Our guy, friend of the show, he was on here just a few weeks ago, Jay Sternberger. We're 12 days away, and he just dropped a line of merch over with our good friends Birmingham Sport. A couple of
he did.
They're just some good designs, man. I already got one for myself. I know a lot of Birmingham fans. They're gonna want to get one too. I'm not saying I'm a Birmingham fan, by the way. Just want to be clear. I'm a big fan of Jay Sternberger.
Damn it.
Okay, so just to keep that clear there. Yeah, so go check that out on BirminghamSport.com. And Zach switched sides.
Yeah, he's
my camera. That was.
He was tired of your lies, James.
Yeah.
We all saw your phone last week. I got that screenshot.
I'll show it again. Here we go.
The damn illegitimacy broke. Switzerland's not available anymore.
This photo was used by the Arizona Cardinals. Okay, I have to have it as my lock screen.
That's a cred move right there.
I'm clearly single, like Luke and Ducky pointed out. So until I have another person to put on my lock screen, it's going to be Victor Bolden.
Sign him up. Well, maybe one day it'll be me.
He needs to know that. It's gonna be him taking a drag of a cigar after the championship that he theoretically has won in his mind.
Yeah, that's it.
That or it's just gonna be that one selfie that you just keep posting in the Discord.
That too. James wants the mustache back in its grand return.
I want to send that in for my press pass at the UFL so bad, but I have a feeling they're going to turn me down if I use that picture, but I want to roll around with that. Oh, it's so stupid, but it's so funny. Oh man.
We should really just pull it up quick so the audience knows.
Oh, let me just get.
We can get this. We can get
Let
this.
me-
I love this picture so much.
Let me just pull up my profile.
This is what happens when we run over. You know, the show is basically done, but this is the
Well,
extra. This is overtime.
While he's getting the photo, good time for me to distribute points.
Yes.
Since we're doing this, instantly because it's a minute show, each of us get 5. I'm gonna give James here. You get 6 for the clips in particular. So that's what we got. So 6 for James, 5 for both of us here. Especially, I always reward a little bit extra if we got a more limited roster. So you know how that works. But gonna be keep tallying those up again as the season goes on. So
Is this the right one? No.
you have it.
on.
You're gonna
Yeah,
pull something that's not.
Well, I have
not at
8
all?
million. No. I hope not. I have 8 million browsers open.
Choose
so just-
wisely.
Why won't it show me? Okay, I'll just go to this one where it has it. Okay, we'll just do this one. Boom.
Where's
All right,
Ducky when you need him?
Oh wait, there it is.
There it is.
Look at that mug.
New lock screen, baby. Next week, tune in and see if it's
Chris
My-
Mason, you absolutely. This is me. This is us right now.
My face
Everybody.
when the Roughnecks go 12-0. Anyway.
Oh, Michael.
oh boy.
Oh boy. Yeah, no,
a show.
I'm looking forward to it. Less than 2 weeks from kickoff, less than 2 weeks till spring stock 3, less than 2 weeks to 2 weeks to a whole new football league. Who would have thunk it? But here we are, and just think next year we'll be talking about this all over again, but season 2. But we got to get through season 1 first. Any last thoughts before we head off into the sunset?
I know those new signings are going to drop the second we end this
Yep.
live stream.
Of course.
So stay tuned. Hey, if you guys want to see the new signings, right after this, go refresh Twitter because they'll probably be
Always.
up there. But no, I think that's it. Fun show. Again, I said it before. I'm not sure if we'll get to an hour. Here we are, hour and a half.
Oh, dude, yeah. We could talk forever, man. It's a good time when the trio and anyone beyond the trio is on the show. It's a good time on Around the UFL. It's a good time in the chat. Thank you as always to the chat, by the way, for providing commentary, questions, fun reaction. Always love reacting to you guys and seeing what we got or something we might have missed. It's always good to have a second little extra piece. The poll, by the way, and I did see someone say, "What is this poll this week?" Of course, they want St. Louis is a good choice. Well, 10% of you said that it is not the right call. So, to the massive majority that said it was. Have fun deciphering where the 10% is. I guess you can't find everybody satisfied, but to answer your question, yes, the poll says someone says no. So you figure it out.
Yeah.
29 people put a vote in. I wasn't one of them. So I have no extra added to this whatsoever. Nothing to say.
Yeah.
Well, until next time, guys, follow us, by the way, at Around the UFL for all things our show. We will get back on with clips, by the way. Busy outside of this, no curtains, by the way. But you expect us, if you missed anything and you're joining late, don't worry. We'll have some stuff if you want to catch the bites as you will, especially throughout the rest of the season. At PF Newsroom for all of your UFL, any football news related to the world of alternative football. UFL Newsroom specifically, if you want us for UFL Newsroom. We're going to get real busy these next 2 weeks. Really busy. We're already going crazy on the website, pfnewsroom.com, for all things UFL right now, including, of course, your schedules, your division records and everything. We got it all. And it's all listed on one excellently made website for you guys that's easy to navigate, easy to find what you need. find these guys, especially these guys. They do a great job on here with the content and everything they're building with PFN and all of our other PFN creators. At the Rep Says for his socials, James Larson himself at James Larson for all updates you need on UFL. Especially go to James. He's got it all. He's been on the dot and on the trigger with everything.
At James Larson PFN, just to clear. I don't know who has James Larson, but it's not me.
That's why you
catch him.
Listen
Let's
to
find
James
him.
Larson, not James.
He probably has my picture on his lock screen. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah. I think it's like some Australian senator or something, but I don't know.
Sign him up.
James Lawson here. We gotta go watch some footy down at.
Everyone
down
go
in
tag
Brisbane.
him everyone go tag him and make fun of him for his toilet flushing the wrong direction. Isn't that a thing in Australia? Am I making that up?
I thought you were going something like bidets or something like that.
I think we're way into overtime right now.
Yeah, maybe that's the sign, guys. Maybe that's the sign.
I'm clocking it. No. we passed it. This is a tie. Awkward end. I'm Zach Kyleman. He's James Larson. The other side. This is the Ref. Catch you for the next installment of our PFN coverage for the UFL podcast coming this Friday at 9 Eastern time. We'll be doing those on the regular. Another round of the UFL is coming Monday. We're going to be talking about all the final roster cuts and the final rosters and power rankings post roster finalizations coming your way on that show. Guys, stay with us here at PFN Newsroom. We'll see you next time. Have a good one.